Tēnā koutou. Yeah, the after lunch crowd on the last day, and following in some very dapper shoes is, a big ask, but we'll give it a go. Tēnā koutou, he mihi mahana ki te Tarawa waka. Ka nui te mihi e mauria tēnei hui hui, o enei rā. Kia koutou, ngā kaiwhakatū o ngā whare o ngā whānau katoa o Aotearoa, tēnei te mihi nunui kia koutou. Ko ai au, kau te uri maunga Hikurangi, ki te taira āwhiti, Ngāti Uwe Pōhatu, Ngāti Parau, te whānau a Hine Tāpora. Ko Panapa Ehau ahau. Just want to follow the brothers mihi to all of you whānau that are doing the yards for our whānau that need housing. I think back to 14 years ago when the first one of these was held here as well. And I think back and also want to acknowledge the passing of our late brother, Ricky Horton, because back then there were less people to look up to that were rowing this waka. But when I look out now, even though half the crew have gone because their pukus are full, or maybe they didn't come back after dancing so much last night, is that there are now huge amounts of people doing the do. There's a spectrum of that. There's the willies of the world who don't take no prisoners, all the way through to the ones that have come to just understand or have an inkling into where is a pathway that are starting from scratch. So ka nui te mihi to all of you in whatever part of your journey that you're on. It's been so inspirational to see people who have been only 2 years ago are now building houses. And we're all the same. We've all got the same capabilities. We've got so many opportunities to connect with other people here in this room. And the thing about us as Māori is that we're not doing it for ourselves. We know that our uri are probably going to marry one of your uri. So ka piki te ora a tātou katoa. So where is he? Wayne reached out a few weeks ago, said, "Oh, bro, can you jump on the panel?" Yeah, bro, I can jump on a panel. Don't have to prepare anything, can just have a kōrero. And then a few handfuls of days ago, "Oh, can you do a presentation?" And so I asked to speak about te kāhui whakatū whare, which for those of you that are just starting your journey, this is very similar as well. It's an embryonic relationship between a number of off-site manufacturers that are getting together that rather than being individual rākau, can stand together at the beginning of a forest for the development of whare for our whānau. So for those of you that don't know what off-site manufacturing is, it's pretty much, I've got a clicker. You build them off-site and then move them onto site. So what this does is allows speed to get the whare onto the whenua. So you don't have to worry about days when it's raining. You've got huge efficiencies of having all your tools in one place. You can do it repetitively, etc. It would have been the middle of last year. These are some of the rōpū that came together, and it was really none of these. Bar one is a large entity. They're all small whānau, hapu-led entities, and they're all just doing what they can in their time to be able to house our whānau. You can see there's a bit of a stretch across the motu. But the big thing, and it's been said so many times since we've been here, is that if you try and do stuff by yourself, then it's going to be a lot harder. The ability to collaborate is where the hua come from. So when I first turned up here, we're at the pōwhiri, and a handsome young fella down here in a yellow t-shirt said to me, what is it that you get out of these, coming to these hui? And the gold nuggets or the hua come from the interconnections that happen in between these kōrero. Sure, there's some nuggets that come out of these, but it's actually the relationships that we develop, having everyone in one spot to do something, to have those conversations. So, you know, coming to these and investing that time can be stressful when you're doing everything back home. You're trying to row the waka, you're trying to wash the bottles, you're trying to dry the tea towels. But actually, it's when you come to things like this that you have the opportunity to do months or years worth of mahi in a short amount of time. So, for all of you that are here, ka nui te mihi ki a koutou. One of the things that we didn't want to talk about stuff that hasn't been done. But we've all got our aspirations, we've all got our wawata, but this rōpū is very much in the embryonic stage. So what we do know is we've got a handful of key things that we want to look at. So these are the focus areas. Just like I spoke of, it's sharing knowledge and learning. For any of you guys that have been through RFP processes, all those kind of things that, as Annette said, put us into a ara of Te Ao Pākehā, being able to share that kind of stuff allows you, it's like one person does it, gets through the gap, and then hara mai koutou. Here, copy and paste, copy and paste. You know, that's the rawe of having connections. And mostly, on the most part, for as Māori in this space, we're not trying to compete with each other. We're actually trying to help each other because our mokos might be of the, same whare. So support for members, including capacity development. So the ability to be able to share learnings as you go along, being able to share some of our builders to go and help some of those builders. And everybody has their gold nuggets. And I'll get to a little bit of some of the stuff that we do alongside Toitu Tairāwhiti and some of the stuff that Willie's sharing. But it's not always the formal stuff. It's the informal stuff when you've got your chief operating officers or your chief builders or your whatever that have got an issue and ring up, bro, how do you do that? Oh, just like this. Oh, man, sweet, that's just saved me days, weeks. And in the times when, as we've had, as Kahanunu have had, as Taitokoro have had, days and weeks make a big difference. Willie's spoken of the anxiety levels and the stupidity of our mayor who says we're all right. We're not all right. Our whānau every day get more and more anxious just on the back of that, let alone where our whānau were before those things came. Support iwi hapu whānau to engage with government. We've kind of already covered that. And a big one is collective procurement and purchasing. The acknowledgement of how expensive it is these days to buy. Like, when you've got numbers to buy stuff, you can drive the deal down. Like, kaupapa can get you discounts, but it can only go so far. It really, because we're buying from businesses. So for the off-site manufacturing space with Te Kahu Whakatū Whare, this is about what we decided as a rōpū that we would share with you guys, because there are things that we are looking forward to, but they're just wawata at the moment. When I put it to the rōpū about what to do with the other 15 minutes or 10 minutes of the conversation, I asked some of them if they'd like to come up and share, and they said, oh, bro, just share some of the stuff that you're doing because it shows examples of the whakaaro of mahitahi. So I'll whip through these. So the organisation that I helped found and work for is Hikarangi Enterprises, and the project that we have is whare ora. So it's healthy, wealthy, whānau and whenua. It's not just housing, but that's our mahi. Like all of you, it's about housing, and our three big things are healthy, affordable and accessible. Healthy you can do by just building good homes. Don't build 6-star. We aim higher than that because the level of healthy homes never goes down, it always goes up. Once upon a time, silver paper was insulation. So those things will always go up. We're building these intergenerationally. Like all the stuff that everyone's building will be intergenerational whare, so make sure we're smacking it out of the park. Affordable, we operate as a charitable company, So we don't have profits, we have surplus, which then gets re-put back in to do more. No one person makes any individual benefit. We all get paid wages, but that's about it. And the hardest one is accessibility, and that comes down to pūtea. Is that most of our whānau, as has been identified by many of our speakers, can't afford to buy the houses, or many of them can't afford to buy the houses because of the cost of lending, because of the cost of building, because of the cost of land. So this is our model. I'm not going to go through it too much. The yellow bit around the whare, that's our whare order build component, but it actually exists within an ecosystem of upstream and downstream things. So in Hikarangi Enterprises, we set up to develop sustainable economic development. So we have 3 pou. Feed our people, house our people, and give them meaningful mahi. From that, everything else can prosper. So within the upstream, downstream, we have our own milling crew, which we'll see in a little bit. We are manufacturing our own components, doing solar, wastewater systems. They all create jobs for our own whānau back home. So that the dollar that's earned at home stays at home, and it goes around your community 7 times. That's about the average before the dollar dissipates. So, no te ruatoria hau, te pito o te ao, o taku ao. So ruatoria sits amongst that, that's the Waiapu Valley. When we set out to do whare order, we realised that we're really remote. And we'd just done a commercial project up there doing some building, and it costs a lot to go get the bolt that you forgot to drive 2 hours when the road's there, let alone the 4.5 hours when it's not. So we set up in Tūranga, and we've been there for a couple of years, ironing out the bumps in our model so that we can then take it back to Ruatoria. In 2021, we built 22 whare. 22, we've done 38, 8 full-time build staff and 6 milling staff. And we had 8 models from 1 to 3 bedrooms. And a lot of that comes on the back of the just do it mentality. Just do it. This year, we're able to take the model that we've developed, the off-site manufacturing model, and take it back to Ruatoria. So from then, we're going to have our own people in our own town, in our own valley, building for our own people. So it's not just the benefit that comes from the housing, it's not just the benefit from the wages that are paid to our whānau, it's all the ripple effects that come from all the mana-enhancing things that come from your nephew building your house, etc., etc. So this is some of the examples of the working together in relationship. This was the first whare that we built, and it was through the mahi that Toitu Tairāwhiti and Willie, Kararaina, how that was all brought together, that we were able to build this whare for a whānau. Was there 17 in that whānau? In a 3-bedroom house. And so all the tamariki were able to sleep in somewhere where they're not at risk of getting bronchitis or whatever the māwiwi is that you live when you overcrowd or when you're in cold places. Now these whare, they don't need heaters in the winter. In the middle of winter, they get 24 degrees just by the sun and having a few bodies in them, but that's the height of performance that we've designed into them. Then we had Cyclone Gabrielle. It's just bringing it into kind of where we are now. So when Cyclone Gabrielle came, we made the decision to not wait until bureaucrats made the decision about money. We just started building. So this is our building crew. It's another local Māori building crew and 2 other building companies that they put their tools down on their other jobs to come and jump on. And we built, last month, we built 10 whare to go out as emergency housing. Now, there's a level of anxiety that comes from making those decisions where you don't know where the pūtea is coming from. But just like, as Willie had said, when they got when the karaua wanted to have something to hold on to, this is the same thing. Put a pou in the ground. We know that we've got to the 20th of the month of 2 months following, because we'd asked our suppliers, that's when we need to pay by. So we just got to find the money by then. But our whānau need the whare now. And so that was let's just have a go and we'll work it out, because all that stuff's not rocket science. But it's a level of anxiety that we carry as you make those decisions. But as Willie has said for a number of times, and Willie's really a leader in our rohinga for that, is just do it and figure it out. Doesn't matter if no one else doesn't believe your timeframes. You just do. So as of last week, these are 3 ready to go out now. So that was the result of 10. I think we've had 3 or 4 go out. We've got these ones and another 2 that got finished this week. Again, this is the Norua-Toria, the Makarika Valley. It's kind of a mini version of the Esk Valley. The river took out the whole valley. On this one kāinga, there were something like 14 whānau members living there. 3 of their structures, most of them done by themselves, not healthy, portable. They got affected, and so the speed of which to operate, Willie got the email. It was in the afternoon. This whānau needs something, gave us a call. The next day, it was on its way up. And so that's the power of collaboration. Similar-wise, this is one of our whānau in Tūranga itself. Again, some of the Pākehā constraints of CDM, NEMA failed our people. This whānau lost everything. Again, the call came. We need to be able to get these people, this whānau into something, again, next day, on the whenua. And the well-being that comes from that, the reduction of anxiety, sure, they've still got to go through all the insurance palaver, you've still got to do all that, but knowing that you've got somewhere to be, that just puts the brake on that anxiety increasing, because it doesn't increase like that. It does that. And that's the thing that we know is happening and is the thing that drives you to keep going. So in conversations, and this is the kind of thing of the hua of being in places like this with people that care and do the same thing, is that the conversations that we're having now is the system that we've set up, which was always set up to be able to look after the Waiapu Valley, act local but think global, is ability. We designed our systems so that they could be shared to others, because we're not trying to compete with housing people in Te Aroa. We're not trying to compete with housing with people in Kahungunu. So any learnings that we have, we can share. So the conversations now are about, do our systems, not saying that they do our systems and our mātauranga that we've developed have the ability to help other whānau. And those conversations come with the ability to be able to sit next to people and have that kōrero. Again, it's not rocket science, it's just you only know what you know. Moving on from that, this hooks back into kāhui whakatūwhare. Is each one of those organisations that I showed before, they all have their hua or their gold nuggets, and it's the ability to share, because if we all lift up, if someone falls over because a Gabriel comes in and takes out whatever it is that you have, then we're all able to look after each other. And that's the big difference I see from 14 years ago, is there's a whole lot of people out here who have the ability to help each other. So whatever we have, we're not no shining knight on a white horse. We've just got some things that we've learned that we want to offer to others, if they help. Is the bell get off, or is the bell I'm just about ready to go? 5 minutes. I think I'll just leave you with, one more. Yesterday, I haven't had the pleasure of hearing Annette Sykes speak until yesterday. And words cannot describe what I went through yesterday, as I can see while they're nodding. One of the things that she spoke of was, it's all good looking after the 70 to the 130k a year whānau. The whakaaro that we have is that we can't do it now, but we're working towards being able to do a progressive home ownership model, and we use our Māoitanga, because Māui didn't go straight up the guts. He was always in the peripheral looking for the hautatu things to do. So we've got a program of looking at how can we do intergenerational funding of our houses, that doesn't go to the banks because they pillage our people. They pillage all New Zealanders. And so the model, roughly, without going into too much detail, is that we have like impact investors who don't need to take a big, they don't need to take market rate returns. They've done bad stuff anywhere else and they need to buy some good stuff. Just like Willie said, doesn't matter where the money comes from. As long as it's getting our whānau into our whare and increasing our well-being, then none of our thing. Just as was mentioned previously, the ever-revolving Crown funding policies are one of the hardest things for us to negotiate or to navigate. And so in the model that we're developing, we don't need the government, we don't need the HUDs, but when it's available and you've got, when you've got people like Kararaina who are helping to navigate, is that we can take advantage of it. But hoi anō, who knows who's going to get in next time and next minute, there's nothing. We want to be able to make sure that we've got continuity of intergenerational planning for being able to finance ourselves into homes. Have I got enough time for a 3-minute video to play? Okay, thank you.
Korua tōrea timber millers tētahi wāhanga o te kaupapa whareora. Toko whāanga kaimahi no te kāinga, ka tuku rākau mo te kaupapa whare.
The housing initiative is all about helping those who have no ability to get into the housing market. We're talking not about $60,000 budgets, we're talking about a $6,000 budget. So to that end, we're utilising the trees on our whenua and we're utilising the clay in our ground and the stones and whatnot in our rivers. So between natural earth building techniques and our ability to create wooden frames, we've got the making for low value housing.
This is a Peterson sawmill winch production frame, and we got it through some funding with Hikarangi Enterprises for the benefit of the people to come along and mill trees for whānau that couldn't afford timber from shops, and to, well, the main kaupapa was to build houses, build whare for our people on the coast by ourselves, without the intervention of outside forces or businesses, I should say. So we've made it quite sustainable by doing this.
One of the best parts of this machine is the fact its portability. So we can go to where the trees are, as opposed to the tree being trucked to the mill. This mill really comes into its own for landowners with just a few trees, or landowners who own very small blocks of pine that are not economic for the large boys to access.
I ako ara kairoa grey ki te mida i aia i roa whare here here. I nā ia nei ko ia te manutaki mo te kaupapa whare ora. A e kai ngā kau nei ia ki ngā huarahi hou o tāna mahi.
Makes me feel good. It's replaced a lot of things that I've lost in my lifetime. It's a healing for myself, for my people, because I know they're getting benefits out of it as well as myself. Payday is just a bonus to me. You know, I actually like coming out here and enjoying all this environment, nature, tāne mauta, tāwhiri mātias around us all the time. Even in the marangai, I'm out here still milling away like a champion. Actually, I'll stack the rest of that and I'll fillet it up. My mother's another one we're targeting to have a whare built. We're looking at all of us that are employees at getting whare built on our own parcels. Come across and bang. Papa kainga and those sorts of things to bring whānau back together to be whānau again. So that's another thing that separated a lot of whānau is the housing crisis, the distances between each other. They've lost communication, they've lost who they are. So I think this is going to be quite a big kaupapa that's going to bring back quite a few people home.
Mō te nuinga o ngā tāngata o Aotearoa, ko te whai whare, he raru. E tino pātata ana tēnei raru, ke Richard Awarangi.
I've been living in my vehicle for a year and a half, and before that I was living in a tent, and before that I lived in the bush for 6 months possuming. So it's kind of normalised living in a free way for me. But I do need a house, and this is my opportunity. No way can a person like me afford a house in Auckland at $1 million price bracket. I can't even afford to get into Gisborne at $350,000 price bracket. So this is a real option for a person like me.
I wanted to leave you with that. It's taken us 2 years to build a financing mechanism for our whānau that doesn't exist anywhere else in the country because it's not making money-centric. It's developing it to make whānau into home-centric. And our kaimahi are our first ones to go through that. And so we'll spend the next year making sure that it's de-risked for our whānau, ironing out all the bumps, and the intention is for then it to be able to be made available for other whānau around. Now, that's the pou that we're putting in the ground, and we'll work our butts off to be able to get there. If we get there by next year sometime, we're still winning. So I guess the tono is, similar to many others have already said, is just have a crack. Just do it. The worst that's going to happen is nothing will change. Kia ora koutou.